Welcome to the Strategic Risk Mind podcast. We bring bright risk management ideas to your corporate doorstep. Hi, I'm Joe Anderson, owner and one of the many fractional chief risk management officers here at Fortify Risk. Thank you for joining us in our initial segment of the Strategic Risk Mind. Today, I'm going to talk about how risk management is like designing, building, and operating a roller coaster. In our next episodes, we will interview many strategic minds from around the country to bring bright risk management topic ideas and tools to your doorstep. I love to go on adventures, and roller coasters are a fun way to get a little adventure and excitement in. There are the old rickety ones, like Ghost Rider at Knott's Berry Farm. The Giant Dipper at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk was the one I visited most. And then there's Space Mountain, the classic blackout coaster at Disneyland. Imagine designing a roller coaster. I expect there could be a few ways to go about it. There is the test dummy method. Build it however you want and test it 1,000 times with test dummies until you work out all the kinks. This is likely, however, to be very expensive and costly and may result in having to start over from scratch a few times. I found an infographic from Attractions Magazine online that describes the process of designing, building, and running a roller coaster according to industry best practices. Here are some of the steps outlined, with a few ones I added in too. Number 1, goal setting, data analytics, and assumptions. What is the purpose and plan of the roller coaster? What is the potential ridership, and are they willing to pay for this type of ride? How can we create an experience that allows us to charge top dollar? What are the rewards to the owners, designers, builders, and most importantly, the riders? How do we celebrate success? Number 2 is the available resources category. Here we get to choose what type of roller coaster we want to build. Who is the intended rider? What type of material do you want to use? What is the space and size available to build the roller coaster? What layout works best? What types of carts or trains do you want to have the riders use? The third area is distinctive features. Where to add hills, loops, lifts, and brakes. Fourth is testing. Fifth is manufacturing. Sixth is stress testing. And 7, operating or opening to the public. What I noticed about this process is that 4 out of the 7 steps in the process are in the research and planning categories. Execution steps are only found in the final phases of manufacturing, stress testing, and operating. In managing risk with companies over the past 25 years, I have found that many companies skip entirely the research and planning steps and jump into execution right away. This leads to a more reactive risk management process. I prefer a strategic and proactive approach. Imagine if you were designing a roller coaster and all you did was listen to a focus group on what people wanted to experience. You just built it like they described it. It might be fun for part of it, but it likely would not have the safety and security features necessary to successfully land your riders with 2 feet on the ground at the end of the ride. So when we look at risk management, we can kind of compare this to how you build, design, and operate a roller coaster. The first step is to set a clear risk management purpose and vision statement. This includes measurable and attainable goals. These goals have monthly targets, quarterly and annual objectives, and desired results. Be careful not just to set qualitative or quantitative goals, but also qualitative. Some qualitative goals can be measured by employee surveys on safety or job satisfaction, a positive and accountable culture, etc. These goals are also revisited at the end of the risk management process. At Fortify Risk Management, we have a 7-step process where we help companies manage risk. It's very simple. Step number 1 is identify risk. Step number 2, manage impact. Step number 3, prioritize risk. Step 4, build a risk management team. Step 5, set strategy. Step 6, plan tactics. And step 7, attack the root. As you can see, tactics and attack are only the final 2 action steps, and there are many assessing, measuring, and planning steps that take place before we get into our action steps. Let's take a look at each step in the process. Identify the risk. In order to identify major risks in your organization in the most complete way, you must have inside and outside partners as a part of the process. This team should be made up of 1, different department heads in your organization, 2, some board members and senior leadership, and 3, some outside consultants and/or trusted advisors. This process can include data analysis, collection of many reports and documents, in-person interviews, benchmarking reports, loss runs, and work study observations, to name a few. Root cause analysis, total cost of risk, and other risk management processes are used to vet out and identify risk. It is extremely important to gain a well-rounded picture of the risk to begin the program build-out and implementation. A quick story on having the right team members. I was once invited to be a part of an emergency response plan for a state government energy subcommittee. This was almost 20 years ago, and I'm sure this state has a much more prepared plan today. I was assigned to serve on the petroleum subgroup. The question posed was this: what are the threats to our petroleum energy as a state? There were a lot of engineers and technicians who were likely, quote, voluntold to be on the team assigned to my petroleum subgroup. I let them speak first and get all of their ideas out on the table. They came up with many different threats to the pipeline. For example, the pipe breaking due to utility digging, vandalism, lack of maintenance, or worn out parts. And they conveniently knew all the ways to fix these problems as well. They also mentioned transportation risks via common carrier trucks. I was an outsider. I did not work on the pipeline or understand the details of maintaining a pipeline. But I was trained in risk management and an independent, outside-the-box thinker. I discovered that this state's oil was dependent on outside state refineries. So I asked, what if the refinery located in the neighboring state goes offline? This could be from a terrorist attack, a plant explosion, or any number of things. What would you do then? At that point, I think you could hear a pin drop. There was complete silence. Nobody said anything. I offered, we could check with the neighboring state to see if they would share their disaster recovery and business continuity plan with us, since we're one of their clients. The feedback was, they'll never share it. And I wondered, but what does it hurt to ask? What was interesting to me about this was we were supposed to be assessing the risk far and wide, but the known risks to the engineers were too attractive for them to pass on. And the unknown risks that they may not have the right answer for and could make them look bad to their peers, they did pass on. This is a typical approach I see in many companies I have worked with on risk management improvement. When the in-house people are the only ones involved with risk assessment, known risks make them look better and seem less risky to their careers. They identify the risk exposures they know, but are too close sometimes also to think about outside the box risks and identify those ones as well. The second step is to measure impact. When measuring impact, we look at qualitative, quantitative measures, and ripple effects. Qualitative measures include dealing with the numbers and might involve these type of statements. This building is worth this much. This is what it costs to buy and ship our raw materials. This is the time delay for our plant to be back up and running from this disaster. And each day we're down costs X. Now, qualitative measures, on the other hand, deal with things like relationships, values, and quality measures. Some of those quotes might sound like this. Our top quality control expert catches 0.05% faulty products. No one else on the team catches anywhere close to that amount. It is estimated that there's 0.07% total faulty products in our production line. If he were to not show up for work, the overall out-of-door product quality would suffer greatly. Or, this salesperson has long-term tenured relationships with his clients. If he leaves due to lack of being able to keep his promises on fulfillment, we will lose big time. Or, our location in the city is very valuable because it rarely has catastrophes. This means our people are pretty much online 365 to respond to clients' needs. And the final category for measuring impact involves ripple effects. Ripple effects are things that aren't direct causes of harm, but they're the second and third level causes that may impact other partners that you have or other suppliers, clients, etc. Some of those quotes might sound like this. If this machine goes down, it is the only one in this area. Our costs would go way up to produce out of region. And we risk the potential of not only losing our clients, but having lawsuits due to lack of fulfillment to end customers. Or, that auto accident not only took down one of our tractors, but it has injured a good employee, created a ton of OSHA compliance paperwork, and is impacting our reputation in the marketplace as a safety-first operation. That route is so dangerous, it might be worth considering a longer but safer route in the future. Next, we prioritize risk. To prioritize risk, we look at the largest exposures and the most frequent losses. For largest exposures, many times risk transfer or avoidance is a great strategy. For frequent losses, risk retention or self-insurance typically rules the day. Once we prioritize risk, we fall into building a risk management team. When building your risk management team, it is important to assess past results, current workloads, skill sets, and a diversity of backgrounds. For example, you can't typically have a functioning team of all type A personalities. The team should be a cross-section of the organization and its divisions and departments. And the team should always have an outside perspective and outside-the-box thinkers. Many times, consultants, fractional providers, board members, or coaches can fill these roles. Next, we set the strategy. Once you have your A, risks identified, B, their impacts measured, C, the top risks prioritized, and D, your team assembled, you're ready to begin your strategy. This strategic plan will detail all of the above steps and highlight their findings and qualities. It also documents what risk management actions your organization will tackle throughout the next year with outlook strategy for 3 to 5 years going forward. A sample strategy might look something like this. Our risk assessment and impact analysis identified our top risk exposures by largest loss as number 1, a plant fire, number 2, supply chain delays, and number 3, government trade and tariff policy that gives our foreign competitors an unfair advantage in the marketplace. So a sample of one of those components would be the fire risk. In response to the fire risk, we will do the following. A, develop business resiliency strategies to make us less dependent on our one and only plant. B, review our risk transfer program, including insurance, to minimize the top-end impact to our operations due to fire risk. And C, bring in outside fire risk consultants to conduct assessments of our property, make prevention recommendations, and train our employees on the safest processes and procedures. In response to supply chain delays, we are going to investigate who in the freight forwarding industry has the best performance, the broadest port coverage and route options, and best local in-country representation to help smooth the process and provide timely intelligence. We are going to review our supplier contracts and try to diversify geographically our outsourced manufacturing options, even if we pay a slightly higher cost for our products. These relationships will allow us to be agile in the marketplace and pivot if service interruptions develop. In response to government trade and tariff issues, we are going to A, pay a lobbyist or join an association with a lobbyist. They will then petition our national congressmen to negotiate favorable terms for U.S. manufacturing and trade of our products. We will also lobby for competitive pricing for our materials that might need to be imported. Finally, we look to vertically integrate our supply chain to reduce dependence on foreign suppliers and eliminate impact from government policies. Next, we have our planned tactics. Once the strategy is set, it's time to set tactics. Some of these are management actions, and some of these can be delegated to individual departments across the company for subcommittee buildouts. These tactics need to be reported back to senior management and measured for effectiveness as to how they are accomplishing the goals of the company. This should be adjusted as needed on set intervals. Key performance indicators can be developed to track the success of your tactics. Making the process less of a have to and more of a fun competition or a set of activities can really help it gain traction. The big advantage of playing tactics at this point in the process is that they are based on solid data science and professional assessments. Without the prior research and planning steps, tactics are only based on past performance and loss history. Next, we attack the root. This is the final step. When all the above steps are taken, the action phase of the risk management plan will have a much bigger impact. Think about weeds in plants. To pull weeds, you need to attack the root, or the same pesky weed keeps cropping up again. This weed crowds out the healthy plants and absorbs water, sunlight, and space that the plants need to thrive. Think about your people, operations, marketing, systems, and growth opportunities in your organization. You will be able to capitalize on these without the weeds of unwanted risk or by reducing those weeds significantly. When all of the attack actions are aligned to target your top 3 risks, your program will surge to the end zone for the risk management touchdowns you desire and deserve. Again, this is not automatic, but having everybody on the same page and creating a multi-pronged approach to motivate movement has a major impact. The final step is attack the root. When all the above steps are taken, the action phase of risk management will have a much bigger impact. Think about weeds and plants in a garden. To pull weeds, you need to attack the root, or the same pesky weed keeps cropping back up again. This weed will crowd out the healthy plant's ability to absorb water, sunlight, and the space needed to thrive. Think about people, the operations, marketing, systems, and growth opportunities in your organization. You will be able to capitalize on these in a much bigger way without the weeds of unwanted risk cropping up all the time and drowning out your attention. When all actions are aligned together on your top 3 risks, your program will surge to the end zone for the risk management touchdown you desire and deserve. Again, this is not automatic, but having everyone on the same page and creating a multi-pronged approach to motivate movement are the keys. When attacking the root, persistence and measured success markers are important to keep people motivated and on point. Executive leadership should highlight the risk reduction superstars regularly and motivate all to achieve. Thank you for attending our podcast today, and we look forward to communicate with you in the future. Please let us know if you have any feedback or questions.